The New York Jets entered the 2023 season with high hopes and belief they could get to the Super Bowl, and unfortunately just 4 snaps into their season, the unthinkable happened and future Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers was done for the year. And after a hard-fought Monday night win in Week 1, in a game where the Jets caused 4 turnovers and won with the score of 22-16, the Jets have lost back-to-back games while putting up just 20 total points in the process, and have had less than 220 yards of offense in each game. The Jets rank 32nd in points per game, and just being honest, there doesn't look to be a positive outcome in sight, at least not anywhere in the near future. And because of that, the Jets are in a dangerous situation, and in the past I've been vocal about them doing everything the right way, whether it was drafting Zach Wilson, a true number 1 receiver before things turned sour there, or investing in the defense at the right time. And while those were the right decisions, and while a lot of them have proved to be good decisions, the most important position in sports has gone bad, and very bad for the Jets, and we're going to break down why they're in a dangerous situation in today's video. But before we get started, I have partnered with DraftKings, the official DFS partner of the NFL, and I want to let you guys know that new customers can deposit $5 and get a bonus $20 ticket to play in Sunday's Fantasy Football Millionaire Contest. And yes, you heard that right, as new customers can deposit just $5 and get a $20 bonus to play for the $1 million top prize, and it's pretty simple too. To play, just draft your roster and your players earn points based on their in-game performance. I mean, guys, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me, as a $5 deposit using code analysis will give you a chance to play for the $1 million top prize. And you're already going to be watching the games this weekend anyway, so why not spice it up and give it a shot? I mean, really, what are we waiting for here? Make sure to download the DraftKings app and use my promo code analysis when signing up. And once again, a big thank you to DraftKings, the official DFS partner of the NFL, for sponsoring today's video. And we are starting today's video by saying what has to be done for the Jets in order to fix this situation, and it is of course addressing the quarterback situation. And I don't think bringing Trevor Siemian to the practice squad is by any means figuring this out and putting this team back on the map. And if they had Aaron Rodgers in the Patriots game in Week 3, and hell, it doesn't even have to be Aaron Rodgers, it could be any competent NFL quarterback, the Jets win this game, and probably by at least a touchdown. And saying Zach Wilson is bad would be an understatement, but that's nothing new. And my biggest problem with the Jets right now is injuries happen, and obviously it's unfortunate the Rodgers injury happened on the 4th play of the year, but Zach Wilson shows who he is every single week, and he shows he is not anywhere close to being a starting caliber NFL quarterback. And we're right back to where we were last year, in a season where the Jets started out 7-4, only to go on and lose the final 6 games and finish the year with a 7-10 record. And within the final 3 games of 2022, they had 15 total points. That's it. And a big reason why the Jets are in such a dangerous situation obviously has to do with the quarterback, but it doesn't solely have to do with the quarterback. Think about guys on this defense that are amongst the best in the league, whether it's Quinnen Williams, who by the way has 12 pressures in just 3 games, or other good players like his brother Quincy, or John Franklin Myers, who is leading the team in pressures with 13, and I'll leave Sauce out of this at the moment, who has had a slump to start his sophomore year, but you get the point. And I look at someone specifically like Quinnen Williams, who was the 3rd overall pick back in 2019, and a guy who's progressively gotten better year after year after year, and a guy who's endured some shit since being a member of the Jets. And back in 2019, Sam Darnold had mono and missed several games. Then in 2020, they started out 0-13, only to win 2 games in December and to miss out on, you guessed it, Trevor Lawrence, and we're left with Zach Wilson. And since Quinnen was drafted, the Jets are 21-48 as a team and play the Chiefs in Week 4 on Sunday night, so you can probably push that to 21-49 since Quinnen was drafted, unless the Chiefs beat themselves, because I would be very surprised if Zach Wilson simply outduels Patrick Mahomes. And why the Jets are in a dangerous situation is, guys, this isn't Madden. This isn't a game where you press a few buttons and calm Quinnen's demeanor and he goes from raging mad to calm and understanding the situation. He and everyone else, and you can even throw in linebacker CJ Mosley, for example, who's also been on this team since 2019, are sick and tired of losing. And people talk about winning being contagious, and it is. but so is losing. And for players like Quinnen and CJ, they thought 2023 was going to be the year where they put all the losing from the past 4 years aside and come out on top. And this is where GM Joe Douglas almost has to make a decision to trade for somebody. A lot of people immediately think that guy is Kirk Cousins because the Vikings are 0-3, and Kirk is in the final year of his deal, which in turn wouldn't mess with anything for the Jets because they wouldn't have to pay both Kirk and Aaron's salary in 2024. And they of course could negotiate with the Vikings and basically say, look, you pay Kirk's salary and we'll throw in X or Y or whatever the case may be to get this deal done. Because at the end of the day, this isn't a normal job in the sense of you'll be here tomorrow or you'll be here next year. There's a reason guys have to be selfish with their money because one snap can change everything. And winning windows are extremely short in the NFL, and this window the Jets are in, with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and even offensive lineman Elijah Vera Tucker is extremely short, and they have to capitalize now. And this is where I go back to the point of this isn't Madden. I know a lot of people think, yeah, well, this can be just a throwaway year and they'll get a top 5 pick because, as we've seen, Zach Wilson is bad and certainly can't win this team 7 or 8 games. Hell, it took 4 turnovers from the defense and 172 yards rushing from the offense just to have a punt returned at the end of the game to get a single win. And I know people look at the Jets right now and naturally think their offense is bad, which it is, and they would be right. But to give you an idea of how bad their offense is and how truly anemic it is, they're 30th in passing attempts through 3 games and 32nd in passing yards, and they have just 401 passing yards in 3 games. That's it. Zach Wilson has completed just 52.4% of his passes in those 3 games and has thrown 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and if the offense could be remotely close to average, not even good, just remotely close to an average NFL offense, they would be significantly better. And I know both Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan reached out about potentially playing for the Jets, and I'm not suggesting that either of those guys are the answer and could lead this team to a Super Bowl, but you know what? Each of those guys are an upgrade versus what the Jets currently have in Wilson. And because Wilson is so bad and hinders the team's progress, opposing defenses can sell out to stop the run and force Zach Wilson to beat them. And if you were an opposing defensive coordinator right now, wouldn't that be your exact game plan? And it's worked because through 3 games, the Jets are 31st in time of possession per drive, 31st in offensive plays per drive, 32nd in yards per drive, and 32nd in points per drive. For reference, the division rival Dolphins are 1st in yards per drive and 1st in points per drive, as they're averaging over 45 yards per drive and over 3.6 points per drive, compared to the Jets' 19.3 yards and 1.03 points per drive. Meaning if you gave the Jets 7 drives, they would be expected to score just 7.2 points, and I promise the word drive will not be said much the rest of the video. The reality of this situation, though, is they need to do something now. The Chiefs game is too close, and we can probably chalk that up as a loss, but you want a guy, meaning a quarterback, to have at least a week of practice and at least a week of meetings to come in and learn terminology and to get comfortable with the playmakers this offense has. And even at 1-3, the season isn't gone. It's not a complete waste. And let's play GM for a minute. You went into this year expecting not to have your first round pick because you thought Aaron Rodgers would play the required snaps in order to send that first round pick to the Packers. Obviously, we know now that's not the case. So my thought process is, as the hypothetical GM of the Jets, with a great defense getting more pissed by the day because we have to go out with Zach Wilson as our quarterback and we don't think our GM wants to win, let's go ahead and start calling around. The first call would be to Minnesota with Kirk and go from there. And I wouldn't support a first round pick for this, but I would definitely call Miami and see what the price on former Jet Mike White is, and I would also call New Orleans to see what the price on Jameis Winston would be. Guys, it's not an exaggeration to say any current NFL quarterback would be better than Zach Wilson, because even if they dropped to 1-3 with a loss to the Chiefs, they can beat the Broncos in Week 5 and go to 2-3, and they could give the Eagles a game if they had an upgraded quarterback, and in the absolute best case scenario, they'd be 3-3 at their bye with the rest of the season ahead of them. And off the bye, they have 3 very winnable games as they play the Giants, Chargers, and Raiders in consecutive weeks, and the Jets defense could suffocate those offenses, and it wouldn't be unreasonable for this team to be 6-3 through 9 games, at least suffocate the Giants and Raiders, that is. The Chargers would of course be more difficult. But if you did this, you would win back the locker room, or guys at least would buy back in, and you wouldn't have to worry about the players that work for you worrying about whether or not they trust you or if they have the same long-term vision you do, because you proved when it came to be hell or high water, you went out and made something happen and effectively tried to save the season. This situation reminds me a lot of the 2016 Vikings, who were entering the year coming off an 11-5 season in 2015 and a year in which they won the division and had Teddy Bridgewater go down with a season-ending injury. How Teddy is viewed today is not the same as he was viewed back then, but the point of the Vikings needing a quarterback stood, and the day before Week 1 started, they gave up their 2017 first-round pick to go get, at the time, Eagles quarterback Sam Bradford, because, like the Jets, they couldn't go all 16 games with then Vikings quarterback Shaun Hill. And not only does rolling with Zach Wilson or even Trevor Siemian for all 17 games risk the players' long-term belief in the organization, but I also think it would affect the bottom dollar because fans would and will inevitably check out if this is the route the Jets opt to go. It is still early in the year, and I really hope they make a trade in the next few days, but from a long-term standpoint, if you're Garrett Wilson, how would you feel knowing the organization that drafted you essentially punted your first 2 years? Because remember, in his rookie year, they had a combination of Zach Wilson, Chris Streveler, Mike White, and an old Joe Flacco throwing him passes. And now with Rodgers done for the year, it's back to Zach Wilson. And that same question applies to Breece Hall, because a running back success, believe it or not, is also, a lot of the time at least, tied to quarterback play. At least there is a connection between the two. And that's especially true right now with the fear or lack thereof with having Wilson at quarterback. And if you take away the 83-yard run Breece Hall had in Week 1 against the Bills, he has just 71 yards rushing on 25 carries, which comes out to less than 2.9 yards per carry. And entering the year, I thought Dalvin Cook was, well, in fact, cooked, and that had a lot to do with the wear and tear on his body already sustained, and combined with the fact he had 0 100-yard rushing games between weeks 11 and week 18 of 2022. So not only would a trade for somebody help the passing game, as anything would help the passing game at this point, but it would also help the backfield too. And I know Jets fans want to point to the offensive line being bad for why the run game stinks, and a big reason why they can't do anything offensively, but out of any starting quarterback in Week 3, Zach Wilson had the longest average time to throw, and he was the only quarterback to average more than 3 seconds to throw a pass in Week 3. And the next closest was Geno Smith, who had an average of 2.93 seconds to throw in Week 3, and given anything can happen in a split second in an NFL game, those 1700ths of a second are a pretty big difference, especially when it's per throw, not just 1 or 2 cherry-picked an entire game. Keeping a draft bust in Zach Wilson in the starting lineup and hoping he has one good game this year, that way you can convince yourself for the next month that, oh man, there might be something here, is a recipe for disaster. No, it's not ideal to not have your first and second round pick next year. But you know what else isn't ideal? Risking your locker room that's full of young, talented players turn on the organization because they don't believe in what your long-term vision is. The Jets need to make something happen because they're in a dangerous situation. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 23% of people watching are subscribed, and it makes a massive difference. Also, thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video, and until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.